disc landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico. The rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brazil was the man who discovered the saucer.
What I thought was a star began coming in my direction at a very rapid rate of speed.
The unidentified object, which some sources thought might be a blimp, moved slowly down the Pacific coast from Santa Monica and disappeared south of Long Beach.
I saw a UFO, and it went down the river, turned right at the United Nations, turned left, and then down the river.
UFO classified. UFO classified. No more plausible deniability. Fact, fiction, or the truth. You decide. And now, the new voice of the high desert, the hostess of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes.
Well, good evening, my friends. This is Erica Lukes, and I'm always happy to be here on a Friday evening with my friends. I want to give a shout out to everybody in chat. I appreciate all of you, especially the person who has generously donated to my show again. That really means the world to me. Thank you so much for your support. I want to thank all of you for listening all over the world. I'm getting messages every day, and I'm sorry I can't respond to each and every one of them, but people who have seen UFOs, the lost evidence, and all of these, listening to my podcast, doing all of these things, my radio shows, it means a lot to me that you're taking the time to listen, to reach out, to look up, to pay attention, and to understand that there is something truly much more going on than what meets the eye. And to me, it is critical, especially at this juncture in time, that we learn how to look at what's going on, that we learn to research, that we accept the fact that, yes, science is what we need to utilize, but it is not the end-all and be-all. We have to make change. We have to work together. We have to respect each other. And that is all I'm going to say about that this evening. This week has been an interesting week for me because I went through some of my grandmother's papers. My grandmother was my hero in life. She raised me along with my mother while my mom worked, and my grandmother kept all of my grade school papers, everything until I was in college. And I found some papers from grade school. And in some of my papers, my schoolwork, I found two drawings of UFOs, one in particular where there was an alien who was projected, he had beams coming out of his eyes, and he was clearly mesmerizing a helpless ant. And there was another one above it. It is really an interesting picture. I posted them on my Facebook. But I also found a poem that I wrote in fourth grade, and I want to read that to you before we get our guest this evening on tonight. The title of my poem from fourth grade is called Fall Fire. You listen to this and tell me what you think. I took a walk on a Sunday afternoon in the autumn mist. A little beam of sunlight shone through the foggy clouds. I looked around, and what I found was more beautiful than the sun. It was like a big ball of fire with its colors yellow, silver, gold, red, and orange. It was the forest in twilight, the wind beating against the trees. It all glittered in the setting sun. And when I was done, I walked away thinking about what I had seen. And yes, it's a fourth grade poem, but to me, reading that now is very profound because I have to wonder, especially after looking at my grade school pictures, what connection there was. Am I an experiencer? I hate to use those words, and I guess I'll just go ahead and say yes, I am. But I've had very interesting things, like most of you listening tonight, that have happened, that have led me on the path and led me here tonight. We all want to find the truth, at least our own truth, and we all want to try to solve this profound riddle. My guest this evening is someone who has had that lifelong yearning for the same thing, but he has done much more than just wanting to find out what this is and reading. He has written 3 books. He's got a new book coming out, and he has done very significant research with regard to orange amber spheres. So you know he's got to be one of my dear friends. He is also very interested in the Native American traditions and myths. What does that mean? And what did indigenous peoples have that they really looked into, that they accepted, that they respected? What can we learn from them? Tom Conwell has been an oh my gosh, you guys, I'm sorry. Just, it's the holidays. He's been an electronic technician with the U.S. Navy and Honeywell for 42 years. He is a meteorologist, and he has done much more. But after he retired, his aunt played a very pivotal role in his life, and his aunt took him to UFO meetings. And Tom wrote 30 blogs on the UFO subject, which is super cool. And then, like I said, he's got these 2 books, one coming out, and they're called They're Here, East Coast UFOs Volume 1 and Central U.S. UFOs Volume 2. And you can read both of those. You can get them on Amazon, and he's going to tell us about his new book. But Tom, what's up? Are you there? I know you're there. He's there somewhere.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Oh, okay.
How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Feeling good. Life is good,
I'm so glad, because I know you've had a little bit of a health concern there, and every time I check with you, you seem like you're doing much better, and that makes me very happy.
Yeah, it was a surprise. I'm a 160 pounds soaking wet, and I had I would never ever expect for something to afflict me, which was a heart attack. I just thought that was only with people who were overweight. I thought I was free and clear, so I could eat and do whatever I wanted to do. Well, I was wrong.
I am so glad. I am so glad that you're feeling better, because we all meet people that we really, even though I've never met you in person, I consider you my friend, and I look up to what you've done. And so I always want to make sure that you are, you're feeling okay, and you're going to keep on keeping on.
Yeah, things are doing well. I take my dog out for a walk every day, try to get at least a mile with her, and I keep very active around the house doing stuff. So.
Well, good. And speaking of being active, you've got a new book coming out. You've written 2 books that I think are just off the hook, and you have done extensive research. And I want you to go back to, for our listeners who don't know about you, tell us how you first got into this.
Well, I've always been interested in the UFO question. I just knew from a child that UFOs were visitors from another planet. It just was obvious to me. And I've always had that in the back of my mind, but life got in the way, and I was never able to do anything until I retired. Then all the doors opened. I started in with paranormal investigation, but always had the idea, geez, I'd like to get into ufology. How do I do that? Well, the person that I was with, the group that I was with, decided to open their doors to a study in ufology. So I was the first one to raise my hands. That's what I want to do. Use me. I'd love to get into this topic. And this was about 9-10 years ago. Just about the time I retired. Well, no, it was more like 8. About the time I retired. So, what I did in my first foray into ufology is I wanted to get the people that followed the paranormal team, which were basically ghost hunters. I wanted to get them knowledgeable about the UFO question.
And good for you, because I just have to, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I just have to say that to me, when you're studying ufology, you have to study the paranormal.
Oh, sure you do. Oh, sure. It's part and parcel. But what I wanted to do was get the majority of the people that followed our team and teach them a lot of the basics around understanding UFOs. In other words, the physics of how these things go through the air, how they hover, how they traverse huge distances, the understanding of mathematics, just all of those little tiny subjects, and I wanted to more or less give a training course. You call it a training course, but it was this training course involved a blog that I was writing once a week. Well, I started writing them, and the response was kind of muted. I think what I did was I got technical too quickly with this group. So what I did then is I backed way back on the way that I was explaining things and said, geez, if I'm too technical here, what is it that they aren't understanding? So I looked at things from their viewpoint. And then I got really basic as far as all of the things that need to be understood when you're trying to figure out the UFO deal. And I ended up writing about 35 blogs before we had a place to put these blogs. I mean, initially we put them out on the team page, and we pulled it back saying, you know, people aren't understanding what you're writing. Okay. Lesson learned. Let me get simple. And when I got simple, I actually created maybe 30, 35 blogs from anywhere from 1 to 4 pages each. And I was hoping to get the people who were going to read this to understand the whole deal around UFOs. And it's a very complex, very technical thing to understand. It was just very, very big. So then I had all these blogs and not a place to put them. So I put them aside and I started writing my books. So I had all these blogs just aside and really didn't have an outlet for them. So when I started writing my first book, one of the things I did is I created a sighting map for New York State. That opened the door for a whole lot of other things. As soon as I saw this map, I said to myself, what the heck's going on here? What other things are being seen like this? There's something going on. I got to look further. So I didn't just stop at New York State. I went down the whole East Coast, which was my first book.
And you have done much more than that, because we've talked about Utah before.
Yeah. Then I went into the second book. And the second book, I realized that the first book probably left a little bit out on the table and not mentioned. Like, why are the UFOs here? Well, I didn't know why, but if I were a visiting extraterrestrial civilization, why would I want to be seen in the areas that they're being seen? So I looked at everything on the Earth that could be interesting them, such as geology, geography, water, power plants, things like pollution and how the power plants are polluting areas, and nuclear power plants, and even Native Americans. I didn't want to leave anything on the table. That's when I put together book 2, then it got crazy. Because at the same time, I was starting to do a UFO sighting map with pins of various things that were being seen in various places of the country. So when I did the Central U.S., I had spots where there were a tremendous amount of things seen and not a large amount of population. So that drew even more questions and even more interest to certain areas, such as, let me throw one out, Northwest Arkansas. Very unusual what's going on there. So that just happens to be one of them. Then I started back into my database, which is the National UFO Reporting Center, and I went back and started to complete the map for the Western U.S. And when I came across the western U.S. states, that was a whole lot different than eastern U.S. because eastern U.S. had just so many pins. It was kind of difficult to tell where there were groups of sightings because every place was a group of sightings. But when I got out west, the cities were farther apart, and it became more apparent what was going on. So when I worked on the map for the western U.S., then I had little spots all over the place that showed large amounts of sightings, and I couldn't put together in my mind why the heck would have sighting in a little tiny town. Say, for instance, one of them was St. George, Utah.
Uh-huh.
Not a whole lot down there, you know. And at least it didn't look like on the map. I'd never been there. And that was one of the areas that piqued my interest. I'm thinking, what the heck is going on there? So, I mean, that just happened to be one of them. And every state that I hit in the western U.S., I found anywhere between 3 and 6 anomalies.
So go a little bit deeper into that. What type of anomalies?
Okay. Large quantities of sightings where there wasn't a large population to support it. Obviously, you figure in Seattle, there'd be a whole lot there, okay? Seattle-Tacoma area. There's a whole lot of sightings around there, plus there's a whole lot of population. But then you go north up towards Canada from Seattle-Tacoma, and there's a couple of little towns up north, up towards the Canadian border, and there's a heck of a lot of sightings up there. Well, that was one of the areas in Washington that I thought was unique. And then you go down south of Seattle-Tacoma, and what I noticed was a strip of sightings along the Washington-Oregon border that sort of went about 2/3 of the way across the state and then veered north. It was almost like the letter L turned on its side. And it's like, what is going on here? That is really weird. And I happened to notice it was the Columbia River. Right along the Columbia River, there's a tremendous amount of sightings. The full length of the Columbia River.
Interesting.
And, it's those kinds of sightings. I really wish that I had a completed map that I could put in your hand. My map has been completed, and it's been sent out to the photographer, and I'm going to get posters made.
Oh, that is fantastic.
That is going to be what I think is going to be my best-selling item. And the reason is I went to Scarefest, which was a really unique event in Lexington, Kentucky. They probably had about 20,000 people go through there. Well, I can swear to you, I swear, right hand up in the air, that there was about 1,500 people that came by my booth who wanted to take a picture of my my U.S. sighting map.
You know what, your U.S. sighting map, because you send me pictures of it, and that original is going to be worth something. That is so cool. And to me to have maps, I've got all sorts of maps, and it is so much easier for me to step back and to look at a map than to mess around on the computer, and I can just look at it and then go away. And that's a really cool thing. Your map is going to be worth something someday.
Maybe. But I've always been like a very visual kind of person, and I wanted to see for myself a picture of the UFO sighting pins on this map. Well, I had several problems putting this whole map together because on the East Coast, there were so many sightings in some areas that I couldn't use individual pins. There were just too many of them. So I used a larger push pin to equal 20 little pushpins. It turns out that once I got to the West Coast and Washington and Oregon and California, there were so many sightings there that I needed another color that I could use for a large pushpin equaling 100 little sightings.
And that is incredible. So we have a question in chat, but I just wanted to make sure that you used the data from New Fork, right?
Yes. Yep. National UFO Reporting Center.org. And it is, and the dates that I did on this map were 2011 to the present. Now, I broke it down from 2011 to the present for two reasons. Number one, I realized I was going to have too many sightings that I just couldn't put on a map if I went back any further than that. And the second reason was when I did in Volume 2, my book, I looked at the sightings per year and noticed that right around 2009 it started to uptick. In 2011 there was a great big peak right to the present. So that's why I limited myself to those two areas.
Oh, and that's interesting. And I can't wait because we're going to talk about a little bit more when you got the data in there and you really started analyzing it. You know, what were the shapes? How did they move? You know, we've got so many. What do you really believe that they were attracted to? For me, when I look at sightings that Jeff Cox and I have looked at in Utah, I mean, I believe that there are specific mineral and rare earth, you know, that they are using perhaps as a source of energy. I don't know. It's very curious, but it's, I mean, I love this. And I think you have done tremendous research. I want to make sure that all of you go to Amazon and get Tom's two books. They are here, Volume 1 and Volume 2. They're wonderful. The data is incredible, and it just helps all of our research. I want to thank all of you for tuning in, and I want to especially tell my producer and station owner, Tina Marie, like I do every week, how much I appreciate her. I'm Erica Lukes. I'll be back in a moment.
Stand by. This is UFO Classified with Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
The phone lines are open now at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
With Erica Lukes on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. After this.
Patrick Phillips here, sending warm wishes to you and your family. May your heart and home be filled with all the joys of the season. Happy holidays from Pop Culture Tonight.
The Fenton Files, where it's all connected.
You see, whoever controls technology controls the world.
Come explore a universe full of possibilities. Every Monday night at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. The Fenton Files. Go where no other show has gone before.
You can deny all the things I've seen, all the things I've discovered, but not for much longer. Because too many others know what's happening out there.
Whether it be UFOs, aliens, conspiracies, or even consciousness, your host, Lorian Fenton, has a file for that. The Fenton Files. Fenton Files. Your journey to the truth is but a file away. Live, Monday nights, 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The Fenton Files.
Incredibly intense.
Where truth is just waiting to be discovered.
Now, broadcasting in digital HD radio.
The KCOR Digital Radio Network family this Christmas would like to join you and your family as we celebrate home for the holidays.
I'm psyched. I know it's awesome.
Starting Christmas Eve at 9 p.m. Pacific, the network goes commercial-free, playing the best in Christmas music from around the world.
No one should be alone on Christmas.
Christmas Day, turn us on and leave us on.
You're going to love it. You're going to love it.
From the entire KCOR Digital Radio Network family, Merry Christmas.
Ho, 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 ho! Merry Christmas! Ho, 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 ho.
Here's what happened on the last episode of Three Guys, No Ties.
It wasn't that big of a party, and everybody left anyway.
It was two people. It was not a big deal.
Isn't this the same excuse we told our parents? It wasn't that big of a party, and everybody left anyhow. I don't know why the neighbors are even calling you.
State Liquor Authority decided to order the suspension after a boozy party disturbed some of the neighbors who lived nearby. New York Post reported that part of it, and some 400 customers reportedly had defecated and urinated on the homeowner's premises due to long lines at the restaurant.
Oh, God, that's just wrong.
Oh.
Were you trying to get crazy with this, eh?
Exactly.
Three Guys, No Ties. Wednesday nights, 7 to 9 Pacific, on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Hello, this is Solaris Blue Raven, host of Hyperspace, exclusively here at KCOR Digital Radio Network, wishing you and your loved ones a very Merry Christmas, stellar solstice, and a magical New Year. Blessed be.
You're listening to
UFO Classified with Erica Lukes, where the truth isn't hidden beneath the black lines of a Sharpie.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
To be on with Erica, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Radio contact.
Share your thoughts on the show on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Or head over to the live chats at KCORradio.com.
The audience goes nuts!
And now, your host of UFO Classified.
Are you ready?
Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
Welcome back and happy Fantopia Friday. I'm Erica Lukes, always happy to spend my Friday evening with my friends and exposing all of you to people that I find very relevant and important in this discussion. My guest tonight is author and researcher Tom Conwell. He has written 3 books, and we are talking about 2 of them right now. They are here, East Coast UFOs Volume 1 and Central UFOs, US UFOs Volume 2. He, like myself, understands the importance of stepping back and looking at the data, looking at the larger picture. And, of course, Tina Marie got me all fired up on break, you know, because she's good that way. But I think, and I just want to say this, and I say this on every show, when we're researching this or we join organizations or do things, we are doing this from an ego-driven perspective. And I think that's wrong. I don't need to prove to anybody that this is real. It is. We know it. Let's move on. Let's figure out what areas this is happening, like Hessdalen that I visited 2 months ago, Skinwalker Ranch, areas back east that Tom is very familiar with. Why are they in these areas? How do we get instrumentation there, like MADAR, when I've had Fran Ridge on the show as well? I think we're making great progress. And I also want to just say that John Greenwald in the Black Vault Investigations posted something very nice, and I want to just read that with you because it made me very happy. It was kind of him to say, but he mentioned he started this great new organization where we're going to be investigating with a bit more progressive approach, and he said that he was very happy that I played a large part in motivating him to launching the project, and that really made me feel good. So I appreciate that, and I know that there's a positive direction we can move towards. My friend Tom is going to tell us all about his research, and when we left off, he was talking about the clusters in the West and how unique it was because these sightings weren't in populated areas, and he found that perhaps they were attracted to a river and all of this stuff. So Tom, let's continue where we left off.
Okay, where did we leave off?
You're supposed to tell me that.
I was talking about.
So we're talking about Washington State, and then you were collecting data using the data from New Fork, and it was 2011 to present that you decided to focus on.
Yeah. What I did was I took this data that is in there. And there's about, if you were to go through the database, you're going to come across, maybe 50 different types of things that are seen in the sky. Well, if you tried to do a graph with all 50 things, you're just going to be a miserable failure. You won't be able to understand a thing about this. So what I did was I kind of lumped the sightings together in types. And I did that so that I could have a fewer amount of things on a graph. And then if something stuck out, then I would go back into it and look a little deeper. So what I did was I broke it down into cigars, which is obvious what they are, the elongated type, discs, prototypical flying saucer, fireball, glowing orange, sometimes green, balls of light that look like they're on fire. And those are different from meteors in that meteors travel about, they hit the Earth's atmosphere at between 30 and 60,000 miles an hour. And they go across the sky very, very quickly. Well, these fireballs that are seen mostly around the water, they're going 100 miles an hour, 150 miles an hour, and they make angular changes. So you know that they're not meteors with that kind of a description. Then there's lights, just lights in the sky. Shapes, that's weird shapes like diamonds, crosses, rectangular, and spheres. Well, we all know what a sphere is, and most of the time, not most of the time, but frequently the spheres are orange orbs. And then we have triangles. So I had these 7 different types of things which I had graphed in 4 different groups from 1950 roughly to the present. And what I wanted to do initially was to see where the things were being seen, what was being seen, and if it changed over the years. And that was the first thing I was looking for. And the next thing I was looking for is if I had something like a sphere and a discs, and they had like roughly the same amount of sightings, and all of a sudden one of them dropped off to nothing, there's a reason for that. So I used that to trigger questions within my own mind. What am I looking at, and why did that happen? Let me jump off subject for 1 second and say that in the early years, most of the things that were seen in the sky, especially along the East Coast, were flying saucers, per se, okay, the discs. That sort of decreased over the years, and now there's not a lot being seen. But at the same time, spheres and fireballs were not seen very frequently in the beginning, and they actually were seen a little bit later in huge numbers. It's almost like if you were to have a graph and draw a sideways elongated X across it, this is what I was seeing. Fireballs were going up as discs were going down. I can't help but wonder if they're related, in that maybe the discs that were being seen before are now cloaking themselves or hiding themselves as fireballs and spheres.
And isn't that interesting? And I know that, I've had Peter Davenport on the show before a couple times, and he feels absolutely that the fireballs, the orange amber spheres, are rapidly increasing, dramatically increasing in what we're seeing, and perhaps it's just their way of hiding in plain sight, because so many people think, well, this is the flight corridor for the international airport, or yada, 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 it's a military base, and so they automatically dismiss these sightings, or they say they're Chinese lanterns, and again, they're dismissing credible sightings. So could they just be hiding in plain sight?
Very, very possibly. Of the group that I saw my wife called my attention to them, and she saw them coming through in groups of two. They came from the north and were traveling from my vantage point down the Hudson River, and they made a change roughly directly west of me, and then angled upward and disappeared behind some clouds. Well, they came through in groups of two, and they were so beautiful to look at. They actually looked like if you were to set on fire a fine whiskey, and you know, have that pretty glow about it. That's what these little things look like. And all I wanted to do was just stare at them. They were absolutely beautiful. I never took a picture. I just stared. I said, these are absolutely gorgeous. Why the heck? How could something be so beautiful? And then they were gone, and it occurred to me, I had a camera right inside the door. That's what happened. They were so beautiful, I couldn't believe it. And if I had seen these things, and matter of fact, I saw one after that, I had the exact same feeling. This can't possibly be something that is invading our skies, ready to drop bombs on us. They were just too beautiful.
Absolutely. And people are really, truly mesmerized by this. And I think you always hear that from somebody who's never had a UFO sighting. You always hear, well, why didn't they pick up their camera? Why didn't they do this or that? And there is something that happens when somebody is observing these. They are mesmerized, like you say. So they just want to soak this in, and maybe there's some sort of control element at play. But I also think that even if you did take a picture, there would always be somebody out there to say, whoa, that's an airplane, or, well, you always got those ego-driven debunkers out there that are just going to look at the picture and rip it apart, and they're not willing to look at the data as a whole or the area and look back historically.
Yeah, and what I saw looked like it had a very active flame on it, but it didn't look like real fire. When I was talking to Cheryl Costa, and what I described to her is that it looked to me like a digital flame, like a fake flame, But it was flickering like a flame, and I would be willing to bet that if I took a picture of that, I would have a very, very bad outcome. Exactly.
And I remember one night, this was about a year and a half ago, I went outside. It was raining. It was absolutely just a beautiful night, about 10 o'clock on a Saturday night. And I saw one of these amber orange spheres. And I sat there, and of course your rational mind just kind of, okay, this is, what is this? Is this a Chinese lantern? Is this a drone? Well, no, it's raining. Okay, yada, yada. But I sat there for a couple minutes and I watched one, the big object, and then another one come out, and another one, and another one. And I ran inside, grabbed every camera that I could think of. I couldn't pick it up because it was so dark, and then my batteries were dead, and yada, yada, yada. And it was just like, oh my Lord. But, it was truly amazing. And so, what do you do with that? You just have a personal experience, I guess.
Yep, that's what happens. And the actual descriptions, if you get into reading the long description in the National UFO Reporting Center database there should be a long description with almost every sighting. And when you read that, you get the impression that the people that are seeing these things are doing exactly the same thing that I did when I looked at them. They couldn't believe their eyes, and they were just staring.
Oh, absolutely. And it's so true. And I've got to ask you, because we've got a couple people asking in chat, with regard to you getting the data from Newfork, Peter Davenport didn't give you special access to the data, right?
No. What I did was, it's a spreadsheet like approach on the National UFO Reporting Center. So I clicked in the top left-hand corner of one of them, scrolled all the way to the bottom, hit the shift key, clicked again, and it copied all the data, the whole database from that state. And I pasted it into an Excel spreadsheet. And one by one, I went through them, deleted the ones that were, well, obvious crap. I deleted some others that probably weren't really sightings. Then I went through and changed all of the sightings to the 7 different type of categories that I told you before. And then I put everything into a graph form, and that is what appears on my book in every single state.
So another question here is, have you ever looked at Bigfoot sightings or any other types of sightings with relation to your maps?
No, only because I would have to get a list of the Bigfoot sightings, map them, and compare maps.
I mean, and there's so many things to do, and that's why I think it would be incredible to work with, a handful of people that have specialized in things like you have, and then just overlay maps. And I think that would be really incredible. I would be shocked to see what similarities, commonalities there are.
I've spoken with one of the persons who runs a radio program for I forget the name, but anyhow, I've been friends with him for about 2 years, and he constantly is messaging me about Bigfoot sightings and trying to correlate his sightings with my sightings. I keep telling him I don't see a way to do this unless I were able to compare completed maps next to each other and look at like little tiny areas and compare the two areas and say, well, there's 16 sightings here, there's 15 sightings there, maybe there's some coordination, but there really can't be, because my database goes from 2011 to 2016, at least map-based sightings, and his may go on different dates. And if I had one of them, let's say in Salt Lake City, I had 10 sightings in 2011, and he had 10 sightings in 2016. I couldn't tell the difference.
Interesting.
So the only way that I can even see to do this is to take, if he could put the sightings into the same format that I have, then we can sort the sightings by sighting date, and then compare sighting locations with Bigfoot locations.
Oh, wouldn't that be interesting? That would be incredible.
Incredible, yeah, but I don't know that I would survive it.
I know that's a lot of work. I mean, the amount of work that you've done to begin with is, it's staggering. But I think if we each take, we've got people that have different interests and specialties, and then combined all of that and just sit down or have a Skype where we're talking about all of this and putting it together, and then moving forward, like I say, trying to get some equipment and get out there. I mean, I think that you and I and a lot of us who are listening know where the hot spots are. So what do we do from here?
Wow. Yeah, good. That's a good question. All that I could do is point them out. And at least through my research, say, well, it isn't because of nuclear plants, and it isn't because of Native Americans, and it isn't because of geology, and I don't have a reason. I have no other alternative but to look at it from the visual way that I started looking at it. There's just no other way.
Well, and I think something, I think for you and for myself, it's there's something, when we look at this, I mean, it's almost, and I hate to say this, but it's like you look at it, you process it, you step away, and then almost, I mean, obviously it takes a bit, and you have to be able to step back and look at the bigger picture, but it's almost, it's like an intuition. Where do we go? How do we do this? So not only are you analyzing data, but you're able to disseminate information in a way that I think some people that are researching it and are just looking at this teeny little section don't have the ability to do. And that's incredible. That's how we're going to make progress.
Yeah. But we need a whole lot of people to agree on a whole lot of things.
Or do we? I mean, I think sometimes, Greg Bishop, who has been on my show and is a good friend of mine, he's done incredible work and is an author as well. I'm sure you know who he is, but he has said on numerous occasions that we're going to make more progress if we work in smaller groups. And I think that he might be right about that.
I would not be surprised at that. I know that if I had to work with someone and continuously coordinate, I'd only get half as much done.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, it's a challenge. I mean, I think for me, I'm always doing like you are. I mean, it's like I am always doing research. I don't think there's a day that goes by that I'm not doing research or talking to somebody or reading something. And I have more notes than you can even imagine, but it's like I have to do my own thing, and then if I can include others and bounce things off of them when I'm doing my own research, and we can just brainstorm, then that's incredible, and that's what we need to do. But I think that large organizations have not made a lot of progress because there are too many politics, there are too many games, there are too many motives and agendas, and so I think Greg's right. In the smaller groups, or just communicating with Cheryl Costa, with you, with me, with certain people. That's the way we're going to do it.
Yes, that would be. It would be really good for me to do it that way, but I'm the kind of person that wants to do things myself. So it would require somebody who has the full picture to be able to say, Tom, I want you to do this with this database to map this, to correlate this, and just send me off doing it. I would probably slow down working with others. That's just the way I think.
Well, I think that whatever you're doing, you've got to keep on doing it because your work is incredible. And I wanted, we've got another hour left, and I believe that we need to really focus on other topics within your book, specifically the Native American aspect and some commonalities that you have found, and then also your new book, which I am so excited about. When is that coming out?
That's out right now.
Oh, so when did you release it then?
Yes.
So it's available on Amazon then?
Yes, it is. Yep. The name of it is Going Interstellar with a question mark. Problems First.
I love it.
And what I needed to do was take all of those blogs that I had before in varying topics about all kinds of different things and put them into a story form and separate them by chapters so that if you would like to get into the UFO deal and understand things a lot better, I give you an entire course in physics and try to break it down and make it really, really simple for you.
Oh, that's incredible. And I want to thank you very much for sending me a copy. And I've been reading over it, and I think this weekend now I have a second to relax, and I'm just going to sit back and dig in, and that you've got to just be so proud of yourself. And I told you that the other day, I'm just like, you're such a cool man, and you are so smart, and you've done so much, and it's really an honor to know you.
Oh, thank you. Well, that's nice to say. Thank you very much.
Well, absolutely. I mean, it's cool, and I think that's, as daunting as this can seem, and as political and overwhelming, and you get into some of the lower level games, we lose our way, and we forget how many people like you, like Cheryl Costa, really are in there doing the research and getting this out there for all of us. And I think that when we get discouraged, we just need to step back and look to somebody like you. And I think that's a really amazing thing. And that's how we're going to stay positive. But I am getting ready to go to break. I'm Erica Lukes. Thank you for listening to UFO Classified. The best is yet to come, so stick around and we'll catch you in a minute.
Listen very carefully.
This is Houston. Say again, please. Houston, we've had a problem.
This is UFO Classified, live every Friday night, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The truth is out there, just waiting to be discovered.
And now, if you will, accompany me on a journey to the future.
For more information on the host of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes, upcoming guests, as well as links to the past shows,
visit her website at UFOclassified.com.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51.
Wait, that doesn't exist.
This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.
Now, broadcasting in digital HD radio.
The disc landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico. The rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brazil was the man who discovered the saucer.
What I thought was a star began coming in my direction at a very rapid rate of speed.
The unidentified object, which some sources thought might be a blimp, moved slowly down the Pacific coast from Santa Monica and disappeared south of Long Beach.
I saw a UFO, and it went down the river, turned right at the United Nations, turned left, and then down the river.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
No more plausible deniability. Fact, fiction, or the truth. You decide. And now, the new voice of the high desert, the hostess of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes.
Well, welcome back, and thanks for tuning into UFO Classified. I want to just give a shout out to all my friends, including two of my fellow hosts here at KCOR who are in chat. I want to give, just tell David Cook how much I think he rocks, and he is across the pond. He has a show on Sunday night, or Sunday afternoon at 2 p.m., 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, called Ghostly Hour, and I would definitely recommend that you tune into that. We talk frequently, and we're always talking about the paranormal and what we're doing in research, and so I think the world of David, and I'm happy to be on the show. And I also want to say Aaron Hunter is in chat, who has Real Paranormal Activity on Monday nights at 7 p.m. So I feel like my family at KCOR we just have a lot of great people here, and I love how we support each other, how we are kind. It rocks, and that goes back to the station owner and my producer, Tina Marie. And I'm not just trying to butter you up, but I happen to think, Tina, you rock, so I appreciate you. My guest this evening is a friend and someone who has done a lot of research on my favorite topic, the orange amber sphere. He has written 3 books, and they are all out now, and they're available on Amazon. 2 that we've been talking about, they are here, volumes 1 and volume 2, and he did extensive research looking at the New Fork database, breaking things down and identifying patterns and commonalities. And he is back. He was talking about his new book, and you make sure that you get that. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. But, Tom, when you're looking at all of the sightings clusters, what are you finding are the commonalities? You said water is one of them. What else?
Well, there's several. Water is the big one, and that's probably the one that has created the most sightings. Lakes, well, that's water, of course. That's another big one. Mountains, little towns that are sandwiched maybe up in the mountains. There's a lot of times there's a lot more sightings there than makes sense. Mountains that probably extends out to the East Coast also. With the Appalachian mountain range, there's a whole lot of large sighting areas that are right along the Appalachians, one of them being in western North Carolina and in southern New York. So those are two of the bigger ones. Of course, large cities, but I'm not going to call a large city an anomaly unless there's more sightings than makes sense for the population, such as Phoenix compared to Pittsburgh. I think the cities are probably roughly about the same size, and Phoenix is the number 2 city in sightings for the whole U.S. So Phoenix is off the charts compared to other cities its size. So that's pretty much it. Water is the big deal, whether it's lakes, large lakes, deep lakes, and oceans, and mountains.
So I want to ask you, because this is something, that I feel very passionately about. Shocker. I know that's, whatever, but I feel like we are, again, it's this, we need to put things in a box, and if there is another intelligence here, it has to behave the way we would expect it to behave, and that's not the case. And I really feel that we are so short-sighted, and we, I remember somebody higher up at MUFON would always say, if it looks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, walks like a duck, blah, 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 whatever the duck saying is. And to me, that was just, that is not the case. I saw this when I was state director for MUFON, and I would go in and look at the data and see that investigators were going in there and they were looking at something that clearly was not a Chinese lantern. And because they were too lazy or too narrow-minded, they just said, well, that's what it is, and we're going to put it to bed. And I really feel that we do this a lot, especially when we're looking at sightings over cities, because we say, okay, that's an airplane, so case closed. And we look at what happened, with Michael Lee Hill and some of those sightings over Lake Erie, and we say, well, there was an airport there, so we're going to, it's case closed. No, it's not case closed. We need to dig deeper. What are your feelings about that?
Well, we have to dig deeper with everything. As far as the cities go, we absolutely have to look at population and say, well, if there's this kind of a population, then we expect there to be a certain amount of sightings. And if they're similar to other cities about the same size, then we really don't have much of a choice but to say there's nothing to see here, because there's no way to break it down and look at every single sighting. However, within the National UFO Reporting Center, each one of the sightings has the opportunity for someone who saw the thing to put in a long description of what they saw. Those kinds of things are the ones that I read through. I read through every single one of them, every single sighting. I read the long description, and if something stands out in that long description, I'll make a cut and paste of that sighting and put that in my book, along with notations about why there's something unusual about this and why we should be looking further. Well, that's pretty much all that I can say about larger areas. The smaller areas that have larger amounts of sightings, then is going to reference what you said before. What I like to do is look at things in the way that if I were a UFO civilization, a extraterrestrial civilization, what would interest me? Well, obviously, I'm looking at things based on a human perception, and whereas these people may be saying, "Gee, there's a large grouping of people here that are all psychic. That's why I'm interested in that." Well, I don't know that for sure. So that's pretty much how I've broken things down and how I look at them.
And then that's good to know. And I want to just say again, with the densely populated areas, as I've researched here in Utah, and we have a lot of sightings around Dugway, we have a lot of sightings in the Salt Lake Valley in broad daylight. We've had some massive sightings that were witnessed by hundreds of people. I have found different people who work at the Salt Lake International Airport, or who have, they're pilots, they are working on the ground. I mean, there is a history of people at the airport or people that live in that area that have seen things that cannot be explained. And it is right around the airport. So I wanted to encourage people, when you're looking at this, to not dismiss things because they're around airports or because they're over densely populated areas. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Thank you for hearing me out on that. But, with regard to some of the smaller cities or some of the smaller towns where these objects are seen, I think about places like Skinwalker Ranch and the Uinta Basin and some of the sightings, the profound sightings that these people have had, and they've been all shapes and sizes for decades. So back where you live, I'm sure that you've got little towns that have seen the same types of occurrences. Can you tell us about some of those?
Okay, one of the areas that probably has the most sightings per population is the city of Buffalo. Buffalo is not a big town. It really isn't. But it's sandwiched in between Lake Ontario and Lake Erie. The amount of fireballs seen in the sky over there from 2011 to about 2014, it was just off the charts. There were so many seen. The amount has decreased somewhat since then, and right now fewer fireballs are seen than are the orange spheres, just the standard orange spheres. But that was a big deal. And then moving east out of Buffalo towards Albany. Albany, New York has a bunch of sightings there, and they have varying types of things seen, not one particular type, such as you see mostly out in Buffalo. But Albany, again, is not on a big lake. You go south from Albany towards New York City, and before you get there, the hills in the lower Adirondacks are loaded with sightings, and one of the areas is the one that was popular back in the 1980s with the Hudson Valley sightings. Just to the west of that, even to this day, there's a lot of things being seen up in the mountains, the Pine Bush, New York area. So there's a whole lot of that. And then once you get south of there, when you get into New York City, the numbers are just staggering of things seen in the sky in both New York City and Long Island. Long Island doesn't surprise me. New York City, that surprises me. If you ever visited New York City, you don't see much when you look up. But the amount of things reported in the sky, it's really astronomical.
And that's great. I mean, it's great that people are looking up and paying attention.
Yeah, it is good. It's surprising, but it's very interesting. I'm actually surprised that happened. I really was.
So I know in your books you talk about some of the daytime sightings where you mention specifically that there are these little white metallic spheres that will zip in and out, around buildings and various things. Tell us about that and what you've learned.
Oh, I was called out on a interview one time, and I went with my two team members from the paranormal team, and the guy said he was being visited at night by people who were trying to abduct him. And I thought, well, okay, fine. Let's go down and take a look. So he had this, what looked to me like a $10,000 security system. I've never seen anything like this anywhere, ever. And he took all kinds of pictures of these metallic spheres that were outside of his windows that would, and in one case, he had an outside picture of a sphere that entered the wall and an inside picture of the sphere coming out of the wall, and they were time coordinated. I'd never seen anything like this. And this was a hard sphere. This wasn't one of those ghost orb things, This was a hard chunk of metal. What he showed me a little bit later in this security system is this morphing UFO that was directly above his house that looked like a cloud, and then it morphed into this humongous ship and took off like a rocket, okay? I just look at it and say, I have no words for this. But that was the one thing that really worried me when I saw this one, because it was so beautifully done that if this happened to have been phonied up, they went to an enormous amount of trouble to do it. It really worried me. I almost wondered if I was going to get home that night. It was so frightening because I didn't know what to trust anymore. I didn't know if this guy was real or what was going on, or they were showing me something that they wanted to see what I was going to do with it. I don't know.
Wow.
Really. Well, anyhow, I saw that with my own eyes on a security system. But down in New York City in the 1985 to 2005 time frame, there were an awful lot of these silver spheres seen outside of windows that would just hover outside of in a skyscraper, okay? Hover outside the window, and then people would go up to the window and look at them, and then they'd go down to the next floor, down below them, and people could still see them. So it's almost like they were looking in the window. Very strange, very strange. But these were reported in probably, I read 100 different reports about these shiny metal spheres that were hanging around outside of people's homes and at the top of skyscrapers. Really.
That is eerie, but you hear about, in the evening, I mean, some of the blue amber spheres coming into people's homes, and so you just don't know. But do you think, what is your sense of military involvement? Could some of this be our technology that's just monitoring people?
that was my impression when I talked to the person who called us to do the investigation on his house. He told me that he was in the Coast Guard, but he didn't come across like a Coast Guard guy. I was in the military myself. He came across like a Lieutenant J.G. who just graduated from MIT. Okay? So I had a whole different viewpoint of what this guy was trying to tell me that he was. And this was around the time where I first started publishing my blogs, and I wrote one or two of them that I published early on about dark energy and things along these lines, and I think I caught a little bit of attention from this. Unusual. It really wasn't.
Wow. So, I mean, what, at the end of the day, what do you, every night I go to bed and I have a different take on this. And I can't seem to, I mean, this is so perplexing. It is frightening. It is awe-inspiring. It's empowering. But what is your feeling? Do you feel intuitively, do you sense that this is something that is malevolent or benevolent? Is it a combination of all things? Is this extraterrestrial, interdimensional? I know that's a loaded question.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. I don't even know where to start with that. Are you referring to the whole UFO question or something in specific to what I mentioned?
I think the whole UFO question, to me, this is all just such a trip, and I want to know your gut feeling after you've looked at all of this.
Okay. As far as looking at the entire issue of UFOs, I think that they are extremely curious about us, want to know what we're capable of doing, and I don't believe that they're malevolent even in the slightest. And I think they're really curious. As soon as we lit off nuclear weapons and used them on our own people, that got their attention. So I think that they sent a whole lot of people here and worked their way into our population and are observing.
And so to me, this brings up a question that if this affected them when we know when we started messing around with all of the nuclear bombs testings, I mean, we did see an increase in sightings, and they are very active around military installations. But could that be not because they're extraterrestrial, but because they are actually terrestrial and they care about the planet, that they have a vested interest?
Okay. You said they're not extraterrestrial, but they are terrestrial, meaning they originate on the Earth?
Yes.
Okay. So, in other words, they're military. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying that perhaps there is another life form here that we have not had the capacity, or perhaps I believe that, indigenous peoples, the Native Americans, I mean, you look at some of these other cultures and they were depicting the same types of things. Jacques Vallée has done a lot of work with regard to that as well. And they, they understood it. They respected it. They perhaps didn't know what it was, or they gave this labels like we all try to do. But could it be that it's just another life form that we just haven't had the capacity to truly understand?
Yeah, okay. Is it possible? Oh, absolutely it's possible. I don't know if it's likely. I actually think that if there's anybody watching us they are extraterrestrials. I don't know that there are terrestrial-based groups of people that we don't know anything about. I just have a problem believing that.
I know, and there's so many rabbit holes we could go down, and that's what is perplexing for me. Oh, dang it! We're gonna have to take a break. I hear that music. I'm Erica Lukes. This is UFO Classified here with Tom Conwell. We will see you after the break.
Stand by.
This is UFO Classified with Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
The phone lines are open now at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
With Erica Lukes on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. After this.
Hello everyone, this is David Cook from the Ghosty Hour. Wishing you all a Merry Christmas, and it's time to enjoy a different kind of spirit. But please do so safely and have a very happy Christmas with your family.
Paranormal, somewhere between abnormal and paranormal.
The U.S. military holds the ability to time travel.
Jeremy Scott asks the questions that we're all dying to know.
Wow, that's a remarkable question.
Watch your step. Hide under your blankets.
The show that is going to make you think.
Prepare yourself for what you're about to hear.
This transmission is coming to you.
You're riding into the Parabnormal.
Live Saturday night, 6 to 9 on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Listen up, everyone!
This is the world-famous KCOR.
That's the only station I listen to.
Jump in bed and cover up your head, 'cause Santa Claus comes tonight.
This is Misha Johnston.
Mary Munoz. Hannah Thorson.
With Starseed Awakening.
It doesn't matter how Santa's gift gets there. Doesn't even matter if it's Mr. Postman in his spaceship. As long as it gets there. You made it happen. No one got left out.
Merry Christmas and have a Happy New Year.
Ho, 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 ho.
If ever a breed was affectionate to a fault, it's the Golden Retriever. They're people dogs, pure and simple. And the Golden Retriever Rescue of Southern Nevada needs your help. If you would like to volunteer, foster, adopt, or donate, go to the Golden Retriever Rescue of Southern Nevada's website at grrsn.org. That's grrsn.org. Or call 598-GOLD. That's 598-GOLD.
Friday night, 9 p.m. Pacific. Jump onto the Celestial Highway and travel at the speed of light. Into hyperspace. Hyperspace. Hosted by Solaris Blue Raven. She navigates you through the cosmic tides of mysticism into the world of covert technology, UFOs, mystical sciences, and the world of unforeseen forces.
You get to really sort of enjoy a bizarre ride.
Listen live, Friday night, 9 p.m. Pacific.
For Hyperspace.
The one show that blows the whistle off our government black ops projects. Hyperspace. Hosted by Solaris Blue Raven.
Solaris Blue Raven.
Exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Want to take a ride? You're listening to
UFO Classified with Erica Lukes, where the truth isn't hidden beneath the black lines of a Sharpie.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
To be on with Erica, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Radio contact.
Share your thoughts on the show on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Or head over to the live chats at KCORradio.com.
The audience goes nuts.
And now, your host of UFO Classified.
Are you ready?
Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
Welcome back and happy Fantopia Friday. I'm Erica Lukes here on KCOR, and make sure you stick around for a great night of really strong females. We've got to love it. Tina Marie's coming up with Restricted Airspace, and then Solaris Blue Raven on Hyperspace, so it's going to be a great night. Grab a margarita, get your fuzzy pajamas on, and stick around. My guest this evening is researcher and author Tom Conwell. You can find his books on Amazon, so I will be posting links to those on my Facebook or on my website, ufoclassified.com. You can get those. I would highly recommend them. They are incredible. We are talking about sightings and looking at data where we think commonalities, where are these hotspots and how do we identify them? How do we research all of these things? And I want to talk a little bit about the Native American connection. So, Tom, in your research, what have you found and why is this important?
Okay, well, actually found a whole lot of different things. As far as the Native Americans go, none of which I expected to find. Of course, I was aware that there were rock drawings out in Utah and things like that. Okay, fine. I didn't know what to make of them. I had no idea if they were real, if somebody drew them recently. I just had no idea. So I started looking at the possible teachings that the Native Americans may have had relating to UFOs. Did they have teachings? Did they have beliefs? So I started looking at various tribes, and one of the tribes I came across was the Algonquin tribe, which at the time of their major involvement, it was back about 6,000 years ago, like shortly after the Second Great Flood, and they had settlements along the ocean over in the Nova Scotia area, and some of the things that they described in their teachings and things passed down from their elders to their children is they saw fish-like men who came out of the water. They were glowing. They at times they almost were a golden color and bright, difficult to look at. They came out of what looked to me, by the description, egg-like devices that came up out of the water and made their ways over to the Native Americans. They got out of their craft and they taught the Native Americans various things about civilization and getting along and growing food and just all kinds of things. Well, I saw all of these things from the Algonquin tribe, and it sort of piqued my interest because it seemed to me that I had read something before just like that. So I started looking back through all my books, and I came across a book that was written by Dr. Rita Louise, and she talks about all kinds of different civilizations from all over the world that had different teachings of people that they saw and whatever else. Well, when I saw this, all of a sudden, I saw something from the Hindus that they said the people were in the form of a fish or partly fish, and at the same time, the writings in the Indian folklore was talking about half man, half fish. So I kept reading on. The people that were described were radiant and iridescent. In the Sumer, Iraq area, they said that they mined for gold and they were called the Shining Ones. The Sioux described them as a golden eagle and golden feathers. The Natchez tribe, bright and may have come from the sun. Well, I kept seeing all these little references within Dr. Rita Louise's book, and I knew that there was some link between the two things. I got to take care of.
Oh, you know what? I just have to say that we're dog people. So you've got to tell us about your dog really quick.
Okay, she's a mix between a now she wants in between a poodle and a Maltese.
Oh. And
her thing is she's called a Maltese poodle.
A Maltipoo.
Yep. So well, anyhow, she's a cutie. She'd probably saved my life.
Well, that's awesome.
When I came home sick, it was the biggest thing that I had to do was to get out of my chair and to go down and get on the floor and play with her.
Oh.
And I pushed myself, and I did, and we've been best friends ever since.
See, I love that. I have a cute little dog. Well, she's actually quite naughty, and then a cat that's twice the size of my little dog. So I love animals. They're special. But sorry to take you off topic there, but let's talk again about, like you were talking about, Dr. Rita Louise and the Shining Ones. But keep going with that.
Okay. Then there was some other references within her book about 7 sages, demigods out of Sumer, out of the Dogon tribe in Africa, 7 amphibious creatures. The Hindu described 7 great sages and the 7 stars of the Big Dipper. The Algonquin described them as the 7 Migis, M-I-I-G-I-S, which are half fish, half human. The Sioux described 7 tribes, 7 gods, 7 fireplaces, and 7 council fires. Well, then we get on to the egg-shaped things. The Dogon tribe described a cosmic egg. The Hindu, a cosmic egg of gold. The Algonquin, a turtle shell or egg-like. And this comes out of their teachings when they described the creation of North America, in that North America, they said, was created on the back of a turtle. And the Sioux described a heavenly origin. And around all of these events were the arrival of the people along the coast after the great floods, and the people started to create their own civilizations there, and they were visited apparently around the same time, all of them, all over the world, by these things, these beings that came out of the water.
That is absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, and there's no way around it, but that you have to say that there is a tie-in between every civilization in the world right around the 4,000 to 7,000 BC time, right after the Great Flood, when people started to come out of their caves or wherever that they hid in to try to survive the flood, and got back together again. But under all these circumstances, these beings were not human, and they taught the people that they came across, all of the things that they needed to do to learn civilization, to grow food, to stay alive. I can't help but wonder if it was because these civilizations that were taught by one major civilization that either lived on the earth already or was visiting the earth. So, it's crazy stuff. It really is.
But don't you, I mean, I'm glad that you're looking at this connection, because I believe, just like you do, like Jacques Vallée, like many other scholars, that this is something that is we can't just say this appeared, when Kenneth Arnold had his sighting. This is something that has been interacting with us for as long as recorded history. And it is fascinating to look at different cultures and to look at the way they're describing the same types of things. And it's important.
Yep, they're describing exactly the same thing. And the Algonquin tribe, they broke up into multiple other tribes. And as a matter of fact, one area that I looked at very carefully was up in northern Michigan and Wisconsin and into Minnesota. The two tribes that were up in that area were, I can't come up with the name of them now. Well, anyhow, they are related to the Algonquin tribe, and they all told the same story to their children, and that was the Seven Fires prophecy. Now, this prophecy was dictated to them by the people that came out of the water, and they told them that they should be telling this story to all of their offspring, and it would describe their migration from the northeast United States into the central U.S., and it would describe the kinds of problems that they were going to have with their offspring. They're going to describe difficulties with technology. They're going to describe where they went when they moved from Nova Scotia and traveled down the St. Lawrence Seaway and across the northern Great Lakes to where that they were told to settle, and we get all the way up to the seventh fire, or the seventh prediction, and this is where the white people were going to have a say in what was actually going to happen at this point. And they said they're going to be given a choice between two roads. If they chose the right road, then the seventh fire will light the eighth and final fire, an eternal fire of peace, love, brotherhood, and sisterhood. If the light-skinned race makes the wrong choice of the roads, then the destruction which they brought with them in coming to this country will come back at them and cause much suffering and death to all the earth's people. Now, what they brought was technology. And they said that if they mended their ways and became one with the earth, then they would have an eternity of peace and brotherhood. If not, the technology that they brought in was going to, well, it would be involved with performing a reset. You can imagine what reset means.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's all written right within the Native American teachings, and these things are being taught today to their sons and their daughters, and they all believe it. right down to the last word.
So what role do you think, because I think sometimes we are so focused, especially in the United States, with everything, it's science, and yes, it's what we have to use. That's how we're going to make progress. But do you feel that we miss the whole point of this? And do you feel that we're not looking at a larger picture and something perhaps that Native Americans and other people could see that this is far more complex?
I think the Native Americans know exactly what's going on, and they know that it's up to the white people to get their act together. Otherwise, one of the things that they were taught is that the Native Americans would be taken up in sky ships and spared, and the Earth would be reset, and then to be put back on the Earth again.
So, and it doesn't seem like we're getting that.
No, we've thrown caution to the wind and ignore everything that's happening. And never learn from our own stupidity.
Yeah,
and I'm not
exactly.
Native American.
No.
I just learned this. I'm not the one to say you have to believe what my grandfather. No, I have no idea, and didn't until I started doing the research for this book. Then I realized, oh my God, what the heck's going on here?
Yes, and that is quite curious. So, again, I know I asked you this, but what are your, at the end of the day, what do you hope to accomplish? What are your, obviously we're both trying to educate people, but personally, where do you feel like this is going to go for you?
Well, I really don't have a place for this thing to go. What I wanted to do was get my information out to others, to tell them what I found, to tell people I believe in UFOs, and maybe you should too, and be very obvious with people, this is what's going on. How I got there, I never gave it a second thought. If I'm famous, if I'm not famous, I don't care. This is important to me, and I'm going to teach. And that's all I want to do.
And we've both talked about this, and we mentioned this earlier on the show, but the fact that this is, we're dealing with all sorts of different things, and this isn't malevolent or benevolent. It's a combination of all of the above, and we need to look at this. We need to step back and look at everything. And I think that right now we see a real interesting shift with the Tom DeLonge thing coming out, all of these announcements coming out, and there is definitely a push, and I'm not saying that he is doing this, but I think it is kind of the evil alien agenda, and there are other people who think that this is demonic, and I think it's really dangerous to start labeling things.
Yeah. As far as the Tom DeLonge thing goes, I have to wait and see what happens. I don't have any preconceived notions, and I'm not even sure that anything's ever going to happen from it. I'm a show me person. If something happens, then I'll react to it. Right now, I don't have one thought in one direction or the other.
So, to end, I want to ask you, when was your last sighting?
My last sighting was, it was about, let's see, I wrote about it in book 2. My last sighting was in 2016, I think. Yes, 2016. It was in July. And I saw a flash of light in the air. Now, had I not been looking exactly at it, I never would have seen a thing. It was red, all right? It was a bright red flash of light, and coming out of this light was something that moved very, very fast. It was bright white and just took off just like a tracer shell from a 50 caliber gun, and it just was gone. And I remember saying to myself, "What the heck was that?" That's almost like I just saw a portal open and a ship come flying through at 3,000 miles an hour. That's the only thing I could have described it with. It lasted about a second and a half. And I played it over and over and over in my mind, thinking, what the heck was this? And then all of the thoughts of the hundreds of reports that I read on a National UFO Reporting Center of people that saw flashes of light and things come flying out. I saw one too. Very unusual.
So do you feel that this is something that is always around you, is always interacting with you, even though you can't see it?
Around me? Am I special that way? No. I look at things in a very straightforward way, and even though I got into ghost hunting and things like that, I saw very few ghosts, and when I did, it was pretty straightforward. There wasn't any weird stuff going on, and I was never privy to people feeling things. I just never felt things. I've always been a kind of a brand X kind of person.
And that's interesting. I think for me, because I'm a musician, an artist, I have had really, just a whole life of interesting and perplexing sightings, interactions, and things. And so I always feel, for me, that there's something that is just always around, always here. And just, so I don't know. It's interesting the way we each process information. I could never have written the books that you've written or analyzed the data that you have. So I commend you. Like I said, I want people to go out and to find your books. So again, you're on Amazon. You can find all 3 of your books, and tell us the titles again. Okay.
They are here. East Coast UFOs, Volume 1. They are here, Central U.S. UFOs, Volume 2. And the third one is the one that I just put out, Going Interstellar, with a question mark, Problems First.
So are you speaking anywhere soon?
Soon? No, I'm going to be speaking in May. After I got sick last year, I slowed down in what I was doing. So it's not until May that I have anything planned. But I'm going to be speaking at 2 conferences in like consecutive weeks. And then I'm going to be doing multiple events around Albany, New York, where I talk about various UFO sightings, and I'm doing a lecture with the psychic on our team, the UFO Psychic Connection.
Oh, that is so cool, and I hate to cut you off, but I'm going to be posting. Just send me where you will be, and I will be posting that. We've got to wrap it up. Tom, thank you so much for being here. I want to thank all of you for getting into chat, for having such a great dialogue, listening to my show. Stick around for a great night on KCOR, and I will catch you guys next week. Have a happy holiday season.
Listen very carefully.
This is Houston. Say again, please. Houston, we've had a problem.
This is UFO Classified, live every Friday night, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The truth is out there, just waiting to be discovered.
And now, if you will, accompany me on a journey to the future.
For more information on the host of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes, upcoming guests, as well as links to the past shows,
visit her website at UFOclassified.com. UFOclassified.com.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network.